Why? How do we know?
Because I say so.
All right, let's move on to KPAP. So are you able to tell us who the partner is or not?
Well, there could be more than one.
Wow.
So, so,
Wow,
and
there
then,
you go. Isn't that a
yeah.
bombshell?
I can't tell. I
Okay,
will tell you
okay,
that, the software part is from us.
okay,
A lot of the machine features are from us. Uh,
okay.
uh,
Yep.
so in many ways, it'll be our device.
Maybe you can just tell us where you are in the development phase and what's next and more about the device.
Nick, my main goal, and this people think this is funny, but this is my main goal. My main goal is to put KPAP on my patients here in Middle Tennessee. That's my main goal. Now, I'm hoping the rest of the world gets to treat their patients with it too. But that's what's driving me, is to get this on my patients and to do it as soon as possible. Once I know B is better than A for my patients, I'm done with A. A's dead to me.
Mm.
Okay. But I'm still having to give A right now because B's not available. Actually, after we finish this, I'm giving a talk in Asia after this, and then I'm going to one of my labs, and I'm actually doing a sleep study tonight because we use the leaders of this. We all use ourselves as guinea pigs to test all different kind of things. Where
Yep.
my world is right now is APAP. It's not even KPAP. KPAP's done. I mean, it was perfected this spring, and the randomized trials done, papers been
Wow.
sent off, everything's done. KPAP's, it's it. Right now, I'm rebuilding APAP. I'm trying to build an APAP that, well, they all suck, and ours is probably going to suck too, but we're going to try to make one that sucks less, if that helps. Cheers to that,
Cheers to sucking less.
Yeah.
And so what more algorithms? So you're going to have a KPAP algorithm, and then is KPAP more of a fixed pressure algorithm? Is it?
You want me to go to the board and just show everyone on your little group here what it looks like, just to make sure everyone gets it?
Absolutely.
Can you tag my board up here?
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Oh, this is all secret. This has to do with forced oscillation technique. I've got a new way of doing it that is going to be different to find centrals, but I don't want anyone to know about it. We'll talk about that later. Actually, you need to have Dr. Rich Berry from Florida on your show. He listens, he likes you, and he really knows about APAP. He's doing a talk next month for us. He's doing the third in the series.
Hey, Bill, just before we go on, am I able to show this? You said it's secret.
Oh, no, I'm going to show you KPAP here real quick.
Okay, good.
So this is a normal flow, pressure flow. This is time, on the x-axis.
Yep.
And this flow, engineers use Q. We'll put flow going up this way.
Yep.
So as you breathe in, and then it starts at zero, you come back, and then you breathe out. That's basically the shape of that. And the volume of each of the breath is the area under the curve. These should be equal. You should be breathing in, breathing out. So, if this is pressure down here, and this is still time, if you're on CPAP, say 10 centimeters, here's zero down here, when you're on CPAP, pressure drops a little bit when you breathe in, stays here, goes a little bit when you breathe out, and then stays right here. That's CPAP, correct? All right.
Yep.
And then, BiPAP is higher here, comes down lower. So EPR would be about like this, but EPR would drop down like this. Exactly, correct? This is expiration. Okay, this is expiration, this is inspiration. All right. So you'd have a drop on expiration. C-flex would be different, but we don't have C-flex anymore, we have A-flex. But A-flex is going to have a higher inspiratory pressure, it's going to drop here, then it's going to have this flow dependent drop there. So what the V-Com does, that's never been done before, because they thought they had to maintain inspiratory pressure to prevent the airway from collapsing, and you don't. And so what V-Com does is when you breathe in, it drops, but it's flow dependent. And so the pressure comes right back up here to the therapy pressure, okay, of 10 when you finish inhaling. And then expiration is the same, all right? And it's about a 2 centimeter drop. okay, with a V-Com. It's flow dependent, so the more you breathe in, the more it drops, the less you breathe in, whatever.
Okay.
Now, what KPAP does, which is really cool, is when you breathe in, starting as soon as you stop, it drops 2 centimeters. Okay, just like the V-Com, and the drop is a flow dependent, it's programmed in the software, but it adjusts to your breath every breath, which is cool.
Ooh, yeah.
And when you get the peak inspiratory flow, okay, and you're already getting your breath in, so I don't increase your work of breathing, I drop 3 more.
Whoa.
I drop all the way down here. So I go, drop 2, then I drop 3, and now I'm 5 centimeters less, okay? And what's revolutionary about it, and where I don't think they'll ever get around my patents, is the fact that I'm down here when we cross over into expiration, so your lung can recoil naturally, okay? You see, it doesn't have that as much pressure trying to expand the lung, okay, the force on the surface area of the lung trying to push out. You're down 5 centimeters, so the air just oozes out. V-Com, you're already back to therapy pressure. You have 5 more centimeters to have to exhale against. And so this is the beauty of it. All other algorithms, CPLEX, EPR, BiPAP, they all are at therapy pressure at inspiration. We're 5 centimeters down. And that's the difference. So then it crosses over. We let you dump this air. We let you dump that expiratory air. And as that flow is fading away and your breath's fading away, we slip it back up behind here and give you the therapy only at the time you need it. Thus the name KairosPAP at the right time.
Now, there you go.
And so you only need the pressure here. The rest of it's just torture. That's unnecessary.
What about that jump up from 5 back up? Like, is that a big, fast velocity jump? If it's coming up
my engineers would get upset with that. You're right. It's more like this.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, gotcha.
So KPAP also is introducing a whole new concept called a K-ramp.
Cool.
K-ramp. So what's neat about K-ramp, a ramp normally starts at a low pressure and moves up, right? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to start with the pressure coming up here late. And the later it is, for most people, it's more comfortable. Some people like it earlier. They like it in this part right here. The later addition of this will allow you to adjust that to your own likening. So we're eventually going to customize, like we have some people who can tolerate 6 or 7 centimeters drop, but others can't. We know 5 is clean and good in everybody. So the first version will just have 5, but later versions are going to have even more drop, okay, and more rise. But the patient's going to be able to customize that with their respiratory therapist at setup to make it right for them. Isn't that cool?
That is so cool. That is so damn cool.
So anyway, when you go to sleep, the rise is going to be out here, and we have names for that. And then when you lay down and you put the machine on, it's out here. And then once you fall asleep, we detect sleep based on your respirations, or 20 minutes passes, it's going to move the return time up here, because we know up here at this point, there's therapy in everybody. But out here, there's therapy in most, but not everybody. And we're not going to risk anyone being compromised therapy.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
Because when you first come to market, everyone's going to want to attack. So I'm making sure I'm going to have limited versions where people can't screw it up.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
All right. So this, you'll like this part too. Let's get back to show you what it really is. So I don't want to confuse everyone with more names, but that would be CPAP, and then KPAP would be here, and then here, and then there we go. I keep drawing that too steep. Sorry.
That's okay. No, that's all right.
Okay. So there is no longer IPAP and EPAP for routine sleep apnea. It doesn't make any sense because you're not ventilating people. Okay. So what you have is, most importantly, is the pressure here, and we call this TPAP or therapy PAP. Okay, that's the therapy, and for KPAP. So then this down here is RPAP for relief PAP. All right. And
Yep.
you have two stages. You have 1 and 2, the 2 drops. And then we call this our TR, which is transition to relief. And this is TT, transition to therapy. And
Yep.
so we can regulate and you can adjust all these and customize them in
Ooh.
our prototypes.
That's a lot of customization. I like that.
Well, we're not going to give a lot of options. It's going to have 3 settings when it comes out.
That's plenty.
It'll have a 3 centimeter, a 4 centimeter, or 5 centimeter.
Yep.
No matter what it's set at, it cannot drop below 5 centimeters. So you try to protect against rebreathing.
Okay.
So, like for instance, if you're on 8 centimeters, the most you can drop is 3. So you would have a 1 and a 2.
Yep.
If you're on 9, you'd have a 2 and a 2. From 10 and up, you drop 5.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
And you can adjust it. Some people don't like the 5 centimeters. They like 4 or like 3. And those can be all adjusted.
Wow.
Questions?
Do I have questions? Oh, Matt, I don't know where to start. I'm blown away. This is awesome. It's really, really fascinating. I just can't wait to get some data, to be honest.
Well, we just finished a randomized trial of 50 patients.
Tell us about that.
This paper was just sent off finally. Dr. White covered it in his webinar, but it wasn't finished yet. So we had N equals 50, of which 48 did it. And of the 48, they did half the night, either CPAP or KPAP at the same pressure. All right. And they were randomized. All right. And each of the patients was started on CPAP, so they couldn't tell, from blinding. And once they fell asleep, then they either stayed on CPAP or got switched to KPAP if that was chosen first. So we don't really have sleep onset data, but there was actually no change, in AHI. Actually, the AHI was statistically significantly, but not clinically important, lower in KPAP than it was in CPAP. So the therapy was at least equal.
Yep.
What's also interesting is the leak was half with KPAP. So the leak was half as much during that half of the night when they were on KPAP. Now, these are all long-term users using their same mask that they use at night, who are all averaging 6 hours a night to be eligible to be in this trial. And yet, when they were on KPAP during that half of the night, their leak was half what it was when they were on CPAP.
How do you feel about the AHI? I noticed that seems to be the measurement you're going off.
Okay, now these AHIs, these were from in-labs. This was all polysomnograms. Okay, so this is scored and overscored, by blinded people
with blood oxygen.
Well, yeah, this was 14 channels. Okay, these are polysomnograms in the lab. So this was all in lab data. This isn't from a machine or anything.
Yeah, gotcha. No, that's good. That's really important.
I don't usually believe the machine data.
No, and that's what I was, slightly concerned about, is that you're getting the AHIs from the machines and going, the AHI is staying the same. So we're all good because it's quite a high threshold there with the reduction in breathing and so on.
Right. This was all PSG data. Okay.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
14 channels. The other things we're interested in is, Dan Gottlieb gave his talk a couple of weeks ago. You probably listened in a second in our discovery series. And, the thing we're wondering is if pressure is what's keeping people from getting improved cardiovascular outcomes with CPAP, we're all wondering if KPAP may help that by having a reduced mean airway pressure during during the respiratory.
Awesome. I'll come back to your computer. We've got more to talk about. Unless you got to go somewhere, you got a bit more time?
I'm fine.
Yes. Fantastic. All right. So there's a few funny ones in here, a few curveballs. Please explain the yellow tinge that can't be removed with cleaning. This is for V-Com.
We made it out of a softer plastic. Do I have one here? I got them over here on the tables. I don't have one right here. But we made it out of a softer plastic, and because of that, the reason one is softer is it seals tighter. It's when you put the
So So it's the material, something to do
The
with the
mask,
material.
it seals and yeah, there's less chance of leak and stuff. So, softer plastics can, with ultraviolet light and other exposures, they can get some coloring, and it will not wash off because it's
Yeah.
but it will not change the function of the
Yeah, perfect. I think that's what they wanted to know.
Yeah.
So that was from Tony, and Dan has written in. He says, "Where is the best place to attach the device on a ResMed AirSense 11 on a CPAP machine?" I think they're talking about up at the mask end. Does it change if you have it down at the CPAP end?
So that's a real good question. And that is that resistance is resistance. So it doesn't matter whether you put it at the machine, between the machine and the circuit hose, or you put it between the hose and the mask.
Doesn't
Now,
change anything.
The one place where you don't want to put it is on a full face mask. If you put it, because a full face mask has no hose, I should say most of them. And if you put it right there, the vortex from the resistance in the V-Com can go into the mask, and it can make more noise. It can actually increase the noise, where V-Com tends to decrease the noise in the circuit. If you put it in a full face up there, what we usually recommend is if you can put it at the machine, but if you're using a hose that has heated, that has to plug into the machine, then that's exactly right. Okay, I'll let you finish the conversation because you're ahead of me right there.
That's my little friend.
One of those, huh?
That's my little friend.
Yeah. Yes.
That's it. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Say hello to my little friend. That's
there
right.
it is. There's little friend. So there you go, guys. So the mask, like a full face mask, where they don't have that little flexi tube, you can get yourself just a little baby tube, and then it goes in here.
Yeah.
So mask up here, baby tube, V-Com, and then 6-foot tube to your machine.
Yeah. The resistance is going to cause a vortex, which is going to go about that far, down into the tube, and then it will dissipate back, and the sound will be gone. And so by having that distance, it makes it quieter.
Okay, awesome.
I think it's interesting how I've had numerous people tell me that when they plug it in at the machine, it's the same experience, but they say it's quieter.
Okay.
Particularly with the React devices, because so many React devices have V-Coms. And we've actually done that, and it does seem quieter. I'm not sure why it'd be quieter there than up, next to the hose, but
okay. And this is from Sue. G'day, Sue. Some people have said that V-Com should not be used with pressure under 10. Do you agree?
It makes no difference. It's only dropping the inspiratory pressure, so it's not affecting your therapy. It's not, some people saying that have no knowledge. Okay. It's not affecting your therapy. It's not, if you use it at 5, it's not affecting your exhaust flow or risking your chance of rebreathing, because it's not affecting expiratory pressure, which determines the exhaust flow during expiration when you're dumping your CO2. So, we find that people like V-Com at all pressures. Now, at higher pressures, they use 2 or 3. We use 2 for most people over 10. And when they got to have real high pressures, we might even use 3 for a couple nights and then take 1 out. I can tell you with 3 in there, and certainly 2. And at high pressures, it's going to drop expiratory pressure, because you have a high exhaust flow during expiration. So you still have flow. But you just need to adapt that. Like, for instance, if you have someone on 17 and you put 2 V-Coms in, well, their expiratory pressure is going to drop to 15.5 or so. But the comfort of it is going to be so much more. So you could turn them up to 18, and then they're still getting, close to 17 therapy, but the comfort will be so much higher because they're only getting about 12 to 13 on inspiration.
So this is new to me. So you can stack these things.
Oh yeah, I wear 2 at night. I know refs for some of the CPAP companies that wear 3 at night. They love it. They just can't say anything publicly.
How do you? Oh, you got to get another thing, do you? Another adapter?
No, they're male female. So you could put 10 in a row.
Oh, I can't wait to try that out.
By the way, don't do 10. Let me just be clear here.
So what? Maximum 3?
Well, I would not leave 3 in long term. I know people that do it because you are, at that point, I have no idea what you're affecting.
Okay.
I've only tested the 1. There are lots of people that use 2. If you use 2, you're dropping inspiration close to 4. All right.
Wow.
You could drop expiration
A bit more.
a centimeter. So you would need to up the therapy pressure 1, but
I
you're still
understand.
getting a bigger drop on inspiration.
Yeah, wow. And this is from Erwin. Why do you think nasal pillows are superior to any other mask?
Well, they're superior if you can keep your mouth shut. Okay. I have that problem not only at night, but during the day. And my wife says, so if you can keep your mouth shut, a nasal pillow is superior because you see the force pushing away from your face is based on the surface area that the mask is touching.
Okay.
All right. So full face mask has like 30, 40 times the surface area that a nasal pillow does. So therefore, the force pushing away is so much more. You have to clamp 30 times as much to hold it in place.
Right.
Plus, the longer the line where you're sealing, okay, well, the force of the face pushing against the seal, okay, is dispersed over that distance. All right. So if you have like 20 centimeters around the edge of a full face mask, 5, newtons of force trying to seal that is divided by 20. On a nasal pillow, there's only a couple centimeters. So, therefore you have much more seal for the same amount of force against you. So there's 2 forces. There's the force pushing away from the face. Then there's the face pushing against the mask, which is sealing. Okay. And you have to look at them separate. And a nasal pillow has the smallest of each. Plus, the nasal pillow is the vectors of the force in the cushion push out somewhat, not all away from the face like a nasal or full face. They're all pushing straight away from your face. Right. This one's pushing out against the nares. So the actual vectors help seal the mask. So that's why it is. And the other thing, I can go on about nasal pillows for a long time. Nasal pillows only pressurize inside the nose. So there's a pressure gradient in the anterior chamber compared to out in the room. Therefore, it's going to open up the airway. It's going to open that up like a Cottle test. When you pull outward, where a nasal mask and a full face mask that covers the nose, well, the pressure on the inside of the nose is the same as the outside of the nose, so you don't get the dilatory effect. That's why only a nasal pillow and an under the nose have that effect. Now, a hybrid full face under the nose will have that effect too. And this is what people need to understand. And the reason nasal pillows fell out of favor is something called mask compensation algorithms that the manufacturers made, starting with Philips in 2009. And they put on there because engineers were thinking they're so smart because we've got to maintain inspiratory pressure because that is the idol. That is what treats sleep apnea. And a nasal pillow has all this resistance in it, like the end of a garden hose. See, because of that narrow opening, there's a lot of resistance. So the inspiratory pressure coming in is going to get knocked down over that resistance. So they put compensation in. When you set the machine to nasal pillow on your mask setting, it's going to jack the inspiratory pressure up even higher, okay, to compensate. So you turn this, garden hose into a pressure washer. And so people can't tolerate nasal pillows. And what's brilliant is our friends, I have no evidence that they ever tested this on patient. And the ones who first did it have told me personally that, well, it was just engineering, Bill. We didn't have to test it. Well, yes, if you test it on patients, you would find that no one likes it. So on our machines, not only do we not use EPR for our patients, we set every machine to full face mask because a full face mask has no resistance and therefore, or little resistance, therefore they're not going to up the pressure on the patient. Yep. And therefore it lowers the inspiratory pressure more. Now, the beauty of the nasal pillow also is that resistance helps you when you exhale. Because when you exhale, that resistance, you breathe out against it, it's going to create more pressure in your throat. And therefore, you're not going to need as much pressure for therapy. So someone who would need 10 with a full face might need 7 or 8 with a nasal pillow.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And the larger you are, where you have higher flow rate, higher expiratory flow, the more back pressure it will build because it is a flow dependent pressure. So all those things have a lot of wearing. And so if you can, there's so many people who nasal pillows have saved them sinus surgery because, they had a nasal mask, they couldn't breathe through their nose well enough, they're going to get operated on. And we use nasal pillows and once, and that opened their nose and they didn't need the surgery. Me personally, I don't breathe through my nose during the day. That's hard to believe as big as it is, but I really don't. But at night I put this thing on and man, it's just wonderful. So nasal pillow under the nose. And if you're going to use a full face mask, use an under the nose full face if you can, because there's less surface area than covering your nose. So there's less force pushing away, less clamping, less chance of leak, better chance of seal. It's just simple physics.
Wow.
There's nothing unique, and the way these things are designed aren't thinking through that. That's what's interesting is the engineers aren't thinking through that. And it's left a wonderful hole open for us to come to market next year because we're going to have new masks too and new technology in masks. Oh my goodness. I'm more excited about the mask than the machine.
Can we talk about that?
Sure.
Awesome.
Look, I care about one thing. I want more patients to be able to wear this. We want to save lives. We want to make life better. We want to do the same thing that you're doing. And, I'm just thrilled, here towards the later part of my career that I'm getting the opportunity to make a difference. For 30 years, been trying to get people to wear this thing. I have begged, I've tried everything in the exam room.
Not easy.
And now we're going to at least quit making it harder for them. For the last 20 years, I think we've made it harder for people to wear CPAP. I really believe that. And, I'm embarrassed, just like rebreathing CO2. Low pressure, all these big people are rebreathing CO2. And I got a paper coming out this week in Sleep Medicine, showing they're rebreathing on these masks.
Tell me more. Tell me more about this.
I did testing on all these masks about 2 years ago here in my lab. And then, it got so busy, I had to send it up to someone else to do it. And that'll be a whole nother episode because I have to talk through the whole issue of rebreathing and standards and all the ISO requirements. But in general, people at low pressures are going to rebreathe some. And this is the whole problem with this, leaving them on APAP 5 to 20 or 4 to 20. Once they need a higher pressure, get them up there because you're not going to rebreathe at a higher pressure. The exhaust flow is these little holes here. The flow out of there is dependent on the pressure in the system, right? Okay. Those holes don't change. So if you have 10 centimeters, you have a certain exhaust, probably around 34, 35 liters per minute. But if you go to 15, now that flows much higher. So when I exhale, as long as my expiratory flow is less than that exhaust flow, all my exhalation goes right out those holes in the room, okay? But if my expiratory flow is higher than that exhaust flow, it's going to go past it and go down the tube, and I'm going to rebreathe that.
Right.
In fact, the Philips recall, I think part of that happened because Philips masks have less exhaust flow, all right, than the ResMed and the others. And so someone who's large and blows past there, even though it comes back out before they inhale, when you blow 200 milliliters or down this tube, okay, you blow 200 milliliters all the way out. And so what happens is you blow the humidified air of this humidifier back in the machine. And that's what did it.
I know exactly what you're saying.
And you blow by the way, you blow 200 cc's out the back of the machine, at the back of the machine. So it all breaks down to the same thing. Nick, there's so much in this whole system that we need to know that I'm embarrassed. I didn't know. 4 years ago, I sat down. I said, I'm going to try and figure this out. And this is what we've come up with so far. And we got lots more to come up with. I'm just embarrassed that, these football players would come see me 15 years ago and they'd be whining and complaining because they couldn't handle 5 or 6 centimeters, or 4.
Yeah.
And my little old ladies were on 8, 10 and didn't complain. But these poor guys were rebreathing. And I didn't know.
You live and you
Because
learn.
no one was telling me. Yeah, no one was warning us. No one was saying that. I love what ResMed says in their package inserts on all their masks. As with all masks, some rebreathing may occur at low pressures. And
Well,
I
that's interesting.
thought about it.
I'm going to look into that.
Oh, there's so much more.
Well, we'll have to have another chat to discuss that, because I think that's a very interesting topic and one that's not being discussed.
Well, papers in sleep medicine this week, you can look at it. It opens the door. There's much more to tell.
Yeah, great. I'll definitely will. I'll check that out. Let's talk about the mask. So, like a pillow mask, obviously.
Well, pillow and under the nose is you want surface area, number one. You want the least amount of surface area.
Yep.
Number two, resistance. Okay, at high pressures, you want a high resistance mask because it'll knock the inspiratory pressure down and help raise the expiratory, where you can turn the overall pressure down. At low pressures, you want a low resistance mask, make it easier to exhale, stuff like that. So resistance is the next thing. And then, of course, the final thing is exhaust flow. You want to make sure you have enough exhaust flow in your mask that you're not rebreathing. So like at lower pressures, we use React Health and ResMed mask because they have higher exhaust flow. At higher pressures, we use Philips mask, the nuance for that, because it has a lower exhaust flow. Once you have enough exhaust flow to get rid of your CO2, you don't want any more. You're just blowing on your bed partner and making noise.
Higher pressure, lower exhaust flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Lower pressure, higher exhaust flow. So
in general, you want to make sure you have enough exhaust flow, to be safe.
And how do you know if you are in that safe? Like, what sort of side effects will you experience?
That's another secret. I have another algorithm on my machine coming out next year that we're not going to have time to talk about. I have an algorithm that prevents anyone from ever rebreathing again.
This is too good. This is too good.
Anyway, that's coming out next year. We're going to try to fix all this we can. I actually have to give another talk tonight, and it won't be near as fun as this. It'll be boring, and I'll be drawing diagrams and engineering. But
this isn't our last chat, Bill. I can tell you that much. And I want to be involved. I need to be involved. I have to be involved. Get me in somehow. Get me a golden ticket. I want to be on the patient number 1.
Well, you certainly deserve to be, and we appreciate the support you provided us the last couple of years. Awesome. We're a lot more confident now than we were 2 years ago. A lot more, leaders and scientists behind us. Awesome. who are verifying all this stuff, or I wouldn't have the confidence to say the things I do.
Best wishes for the future, Bill. I'm pumped, mate. I'm absolutely pumped.
Well, good. Well, thank you.
Awesome. All right, mate. I'll speak soon. Bye.
All right.
I am not in danger, Skylar. I am the danger. A guy opens his door and gets shot, and you think that of me? No. I am the one who knocks.
This video is sponsored by Sleep HQ. Upload, review, and share your detailed CPAP reports with anyone from anywhere. Visit sleephq.com and join our free community today.